Hey you guys, it's Spencer with Darkside Diesel, and today I wanted to show you, we're going to be going over on our 07.5 Dodge Ram 2500 with the 6.7 Cummins. So we're going to be putting in a Mishimoto lifetime warranty thermostat with the 180 Fahrenheit. Right now it's got a 193 in it, so it runs a little hotter and we don't need it anymore. We're going to try to keep the temps down. And we've got a coolant hose leaking. It's a quick connect style that Dodge has is on the 6.7s with 2 O-rings inside there. And it's actually leaking out of there. So this goes from your head to your heater core on the firewall. So we're going to replace that, show you how to do it. You do normally have to use a special tool for this, but you might be able to get away without doing that. But we'll show you that. And if you come over here, we'll show you, we have that coolant leak in the engine bay. So here's that heater line. As you can see at the quick connect down here, we're leaking. This may even be cracked up top because it looks like it's coming down from above. But you get a lot of heat cycles on these, and plastic fails, O-rings go out. So we'll get that switched. Your thermostat housing is going to be right here. It's only 3 bolts with the 8mm socket that you're going to need to take it out. You will want to make sure you have all your coolant drained, which is what we're doing right now. And then you have, on the 6.7s, you have an exhaust back pressure probe sensor right here. So we will have to disconnect that to lift our thermostat housing up off of it, at least this hard line right here. So that's what we'll get ready to do since we have the coolant draining. So we'll grab a wrench for that and take care of that. So just kind of support the hard line. Since mine's not bolted down anymore, I don't have the exhaust manifold spacers. Hold it in place. You don't want to twist the line or you'll break it. It is a 12mm, and I've already had mine off several times in the past, but I like to put high temp anti-seize on the threads to keep it from binding in there over time with all the heat from the exhaust. So you're just going to have that out of the way. Then usually we'll use a screwdriver and we'll pop this connector up out of the way. But you have this red tab here on this back side. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got a red tab, locking tab on the sensor. You got to push that out before you can disconnect it. It's a Cummins thing. Sometimes they're a pain. So there's a couple ways you can, I usually try to use a screwdriver, flathead, to just pop that clip out. You could hear it there. Then you take it out just all the way till it stops. And now we got that connector off, but you can see it now. See the red tab sticking out? That's your first lock that you have to push out. It slides and keeps you from being able to unlatch this. Just a safety provision that they have. Now you can just use a 1/4-inch ratchet, and you have these 3 bolts holding the thermostat housing on. Hopefully by now our coolant's down low enough we don't make a big mess. So it's just going to pop up once you have those 3 bolts out and you have your everything disconnected. See, that's why you got to take your exhaust back pressure probe line off and your connector, or you're not going to be able to get this up out of the way. And if you try to yank on it, you're going to end up breaking something. So now you're just going to pop that out of the thermostat housing. There's our old one. That's just a cheapy 193. Now they come like that from the factory normally for NOx emissions and stuff like that, but they'll run a little bit better at a lower temperature and give you some room to create heat with higher horsepower, so it doesn't jump up there quite as fast. So provided by Mishimoto, they offer, I believe it's a 190 and a 180, depending on what you want to run in your truck. I prefer running a 180. It's what they use on larger Cummins engines back in the day too. So you see, brand new, made a good quality. It's heavy duty, lifetime warranty replacement on that. So good parts that Mishimoto makes. I like using them. So we're just going to clean up this coolant that we spilled. We got a little bit, not much, but so you can, I'll show you a little bit down there, but down in the housing you see the flat spot in the bottom and the ring up top, and then right here that sits on the very bottom, and then this seals right there. This will actually open once the engine's up to 180 Fahrenheit. It'll begin to open, allow coolant to come in through the bottom, out of the head, and up through and through the radiator and get pulled back down to the water pump at the bottom of the radiator, and that's how the cycle goes. So we'll put that puppy in. That goes down. Pretty simple. Just make sure you're lined up in your hole there. Not bad at all. Then one thing you'll want to do is that I noticed real quick, let me grab. So we got a little bit of coolant in one of our holes for our bolts. So we have some coolant in that back bolt hole, and if you're gonna put a little blue Loctite or something on your bolts, or when you go to thread that in, it's gonna hydro lock that bolt and you're not gonna get it torqued down properly. So you're gonna wanna check for that, and we wanna get that coolant out of there. Now if you had like a little device to maybe suck it out of there or something like that, that would work, but you can take a little bit of air and a rag, because you're gonna get sprayed most likely, and we're gonna just blow it out of there. You wanna make sure our bolt is able to go all the way down and doesn't lock up. You want it to be nice and clean. So all of our bolt holes are clean. It's gonna go right back down on top of where it's supposed to go. And then, I mean, these bolts are really small, so you don't really need much torque at all on them. Put just a drop of blue. Thread locker on it. Kind of wipe it in the threads. You'd never want to use any red on this. Red's a high strength, and you'd end up most likely breaking the bolt off in the thermostat housing on the head, and that's a bad situation. Sometimes red Loctite actually you have to have heat to remove it and loosen it up to get bolts out. So don't use red Loctite on small bolts. Just get it lined up. You're going to want to start your bolts by hand and make sure that they thread in nice and smooth. If they don't, you either got something wrong on the threads in the head or on the bolt, or you're cross threaded and you don't want to tighten it down. If that's the situation, you want to figure out why it's not going in smoothly. Now we're just going to evenly just tighten these down a little bit. You're just seating that seal in there. Like I said, these are probably like 6mm metric bolts, and the torque is just extremely low, so you're just giving them a really good snug. And if you feel uncomfortable with that, you probably look up the torque spec and tighten them down to the manufacturer. So that's how you put the Mishimoto thermostat in. It's not too bad, it's pretty simple. Just take those couple steps and you'll be good to go. Alright you guys, so since we got the thermostat housing bolted back down, then we are going to get... So if you see right here, these are the threads I'm talking about. We'll put a little anti-seize on those, and since I had before, I'm not too worried about it. You really want to make sure down here on the manifold side that you're going to want to use high temp anti-seize on there, because that's where a lot of the heat is and you're going to run into issues. Pressure probe right here by the thermostat housing on your coolant line, because it's going to reduce the heat at the sensor. Nothing fills these sensors more than heat, and you got a lot of heat coming out of your exhaust manifold. They use this line to run the exhaust pressure back to it and allow it to cool. You'll see aftermarket setups where people run like a copper line off their exhaust manifold that's coiled, and that just dissipates the exhaust heat before it gets to the sensor, or it burns the sensor up. So that's why Cummins did it this way, to keep the temperature down and out of it and make the sensor live. So you're just going to pop that back on your hard line, and really all you're doing is just snugging this up. You don't want to break it or over tighten it. You hear that click, and then so you're going to want to go in that back side and pop your red tab back over. Kind of pain to get to, but you'll hear that click, and now your connector's back on, your exhaust pressure probe tube's back. We got our thermostat housing all bolted down. That's good to go. So we'll move a couple things out of the way so we don't drop them, and then hopefully we'll be able to get that line off not too bad. So we got our new line here, and you can see it comes with this. That actually is just holding open your clamp, and so we're gonna have to try to get back in there because this puppy's hiding on ours on there because how it's back behind it, so it's gonna be a little bit of a pain to get off. So I don't know, you guys probably can't see, it's kind of dark in there. Let's see if I can move a light around and get a better shine on it. But it's that line right there, and you can't even see the clamp because it's back behind the coolant line. So I don't think it's going to be quite fun, but we'll do what we can to get it out. So maybe we'll be able to Get a little light shine down in there for you. We'll put the light there. Okay, you guys, so originally I was thinking we had our quick connect style that we had to use a tool to actually remove this connector, but we don't. So I'll show you. It's actually pretty simple. Thankfully, Release Dodge did it this way. So back here where it's leaking, you're gonna push this down. And when you do, you're gonna push it down and push in these pins, this plastic piece, and then you'll be able to wiggle it up past, and that releases it. And then you're gonna wanna spin this and just pry up on it. So of course it'll be probably kind of stuck on there. Since we have a new one, it won't matter too much if we break ours. But if you're gonna reuse it, you're not gonna want to break it. So well, that's where you want to get those off out of the way. So we'll clean any coolant off of this. Really want to make sure that that's in good condition, that it's not worn through. You can see that this one maybe has a little wear where the O-rings sit, but I don't think it's going to be a problem since there's 2 O-rings. You could always replace that, but I think we will be okay not to on this application. So this will be kind of a tricky part, is to get back in there and get your connector undone. I'm actually going to move my EGT probe cable out of the way so I don't bend it. Now, you're going to probably want to move that out of your way as much as possible. And you're going to have to get in there. See, this is where it's difficult because the clamp's actually like connected to the back of the line, so even when you break it loose, you can't spin it without spinning the line. And the line's been on there for so long, that doesn't want to come off. So we got the clamp off. So it's definitely not always too easy like you wish it would be. Sometimes they put things where they're not easily accessible. And then you're gonna have to break that coolant line loose off the heater core. Now if you can get in there with some channel locks, now you don't want to squeeze too hard, you're just trying to twist the rubber. You don't want to damage the heater core line, they're pretty soft usually. You don't want to cause it to leak. Go. So I actually had to cut into the line, take a flathead screwdriver, get inside and release the hose off of the hard line because it was stuck on there. I didn't have enough room to get on it with channel locks or anything like that to twist it and break it free. They also make some pretty good tools that you could come in, if you had enough room, on the back side, like a hook with a point, and get under there and go around and break it free. One thing about these lines is after they've been on there for a long time, they kind of just glue themselves on, in a sense that makes it really hard to get off. So we'll put the new one on now. So we've got our new one here. So that's the clamp that was in the back. That was pretty difficult to get off because when this opens, it spreads open a lot, and you're trying to get on it out here with a tool to clamp it down, pull it back away, and get the line off. And this line gets stuck on the tube, and it's all the way up against the firewall, so you really don't have any way on this one to get back in there and break it free. So do your best to get it off and not break anything. You know, it's just really can take some time to get it off there and figure out which way works best for you. Just be delicate with what you do so that you don't break anything. I mean, that's the biggest thing is if you break the tube going in the heater core that's inside the truck, you just made a lot of work for yourself, and it's going to be very difficult and expensive if you have to take it to someone else to fix the heater core. So take your time, do it right, and then might put just a little bit of lube on here, maybe just touch WD-40 so it'll slide over a lot smoother. So should come in through. See, that's where it needs to go. So you gotta fit it up over, just like that. And then we'll get that off in a second. Come over here. This is literally just gonna go on, pop down on there, you know, and we'll be all good. We'll take it out and wash it off, make sure we don't have a leak anymore. But for this connector, so we'll make sure she's all the way on. You can feel the edge of the heater core. You want to push it past that ridge so that it keeps the line on under pressure. Okay. And then you just pull that straight off, and that'll set your clamp on your hose. Okay, then tilt this at an angle when you go in so it clears. Now you want to be straight over it. You're going to want to push down right on top until it clicks. Now we're completely down. We got that line on, got the old one off. It wasn't the easiest, but we were able to do it. So hopefully that'll help you be able to do yours. Take your time. It can be a little bit frustrating, but you'll get it done. All right, you guys, so we just got our thermostat replaced with the Mishimoto 180. Okay, we got our coolant line from our head to our heater core hooked back up, a new one, because it was leaking. So what you do, right, if you want to reuse your coolant, get a 5-gallon bucket like I did, make sure it's clean. You don't want any contaminants getting in your cooling system. And make sure you're using coolant for diesel if you have a diesel. It can cause problems if you don't. I run what they call an oats coolant. It's newer. It's an organic diesel coolant. You don't have to add nitrates anymore, and so they're getting rid of it in the old systems. No more nitrates being added or anything like that. It's better for the actual coolant hoses and stuff like that. Nitrates can actually deteriorate your hose over time. This doesn't. It's good for 500,000 or a million miles. It's super crazy, but it's about 20 bucks a gallon. So you can also mix it in with the older style ELC coolant for diesels that has nitrates, and the nitrates will just dissipate over time, and the oats will just continue to keep going. So make sure you got a clean bucket if you're going to reuse your coolant. Like I said, we got this pretty sweet funnel set up that seals in there. Makes things pretty nice of not spilling stuff if you can still pour it straight in. There's always those good times when you miss and spill coolant all over your truck. So it's bleeding the air down. One thing you guys could do that I would normally do is take this out right here. And that'll bleed the air out of the coolant system. It'll be a little bit easier than this, waiting for it to burp and go down. So just set it. So let's do it this way, because honestly, it's just far superior. You can see how the coolant didn't want to go down in, and still wants to make a mess because it's burping. Now, maybe if you use like a bigger funnel or something like that, that would breathe a little bit more. It'd be a little bit more simple, but just gonna take that out. That's going to allow air to escape from the cooling system as you're filling it. And it should make filling it much more fast. See, now it's not burping, shooting coolant all over the truck. So we're getting close to being full topping off, so now it's going to slow down a little bit, let the air bleed out. So we had coolant running out of here. That's telling us that. All right, you guys, so we're filling up our coolant and we got our bleeder hole right here. And you'll know you're full on coolant because we start getting, you can see the coolant down in there and the coolant is coming up out of the top. You're not really gonna be able to see it right there. I might put just a little bit in and you'll kind of see it come out of there, you know, and that's for bleeding the air. Not all systems have those. They do make it pretty nice. So you see the coolant come out, we know we're full. Does make a little bit of a mess, but that kind of happens. So we'll just clean that off. Keep our mess down. So now this is just a national pipe thread with the Allen, but you're gonna wanna reseal the threads, and we use a little bit of this thread sealant with PTFE. So makes it nice and easy. It's what you use for water, liquids, and stuff like that on any type of threads. Just guarantees you're not going to have a coolant leak at your pipe fitting right there. It doesn't really take a lot. You just put a little bit on your threads, or else you just make more of a mess than anything. And then you can actually run it down into the threads like that. That's about all you need, just the depth of the threads. You don't need any more than that. So we're just gonna tighten that back down and make sure you hold this coolant standpipe with the crescent, because that goes down below and you can end up breaking it, cracking it, or other things like that if you're not taking care to keep it held in place properly. You don't have to overly tighten anything like that. It's just like that and it's done. It's all sealed up, you know. You kind of saw the first way without pulling that, you know, we had a lot of air burping out of it and making a little bit of a mess. And this definitely makes it easier, and you know when you're topped off right here, because this is going to be your highest point. And so it's nice to have all the air bled out and really takes care of that. So we'll put our radiator cap back on and we'll be all good to go. So thanks for joining me with Darkside Diesel. And if you have any questions, just comment below and I'll let you know. Thank you.